As hard as it is being an X-Men fan, it's even harder being a Nightcrawler fan. Not that there aren't great Nightcrawler stories out there, because Chris Claremont stories still exist. John Byrne still exists. We still have some good stuff to go back on, but they have just slaughtered my boy, Nightcrawler, Kurt Wagner. Please come back to me. They continuously do it over and over, and I don't know if this is the worst thing they've done this week, but it's certainly among the worst. Just a little refresher. Recently, we had Nightcrawler create a mutant cult, despite being a devout Catholic, and that being an enormous part of who he is and his motivation set and all that kind of stuff. We also had the retcon from Cy Spurrier's X-Men Blue Origins. We got the Legend of the Butt Baby, to where Mystique is not his mother. Mystique is actually his father. Oh, my goodness. The less said about that one, the better. We had the Jerry Duggan. Nightcrawler is a murderer. That was pretty strange. Nightcrawler, the first of the 10 Commandments, thou shalt not kill, bamfing people out into space and leaving them there to die. Felt very out of character. And now, wouldn't you know it, Gail Simone has declared that Nightcrawler is a furry. Yes, you heard that right. Nightcrawler apparently is a part of the furry community. He goes to conventions and he says he has a good time. And of course, when you have something this stupid, people have to celebrate it, right? You know, that's what the comic book media does. Case in point, we've got a Screen Rant article. Headline: I actually like the furry community. Furries rejoice as one of X-Men's most iconic heroes is a big fan. That's a hot take. We also got superhero hype. Nightcrawler revealed to be a furry in Uncanny X-Men #3. That's right. Nightcrawler himself is a furry. Maybe it's because he's got fur. I don't know. And of course, Bleeding Cool got in there to create a little bit of controversy. Nightcrawler furries and Uncanny X-Men triggering X spoilers. I wonder if he got that from Gail Simone. I wonder if this was included in there just to piss people off and make X-Men fans talk about how much they hate the series. So maybe all publicity is good publicity. That's the rumor out there, although I don't agree with that, because I think stuff like this absolutely turns people off. I think it's awful. And Nightcrawler is my favorite X-Men character. He's one of my favorite Marvel heroes, period. He's in my top 10 superheroes of all time. And they keep doing stuff like this to him. And it's because Nightcrawler, Kurt Wagner, is a devout Catholic. And that's not acceptable. You know, he's a straight character. He's religious. We got to remove that from him. We got to have his dad be a woman. We have to have him start a cult. He needs to murder people. And now he needs to become a part of a degenerate community like the furries for no reason whatsoever. Does not fit into the character's history, motivation sets, or whatever. But Gail Simone thought it'd be funny because he's got fur. Get it? Don't you get the joke? It's like every time you get this, it's a bigger slap in the face. And you always want to believe, and you tell yourself, you know, to kind of get you through the hard times. We've been in hard times in comic books, specifically at Marvel, really, for a long time, that it can't get worse. Oh, it could always get fucking worse. They could put Gail Simone on Uncanny X-Men. They could put Mark Russell on X Factor. They could make a wholly new flagship title from Eve Ewing that's all about mutants being part of the oppressed community, and certainly throwing in the LGBTQ stuff, because it's only a gay allegory now. It's not an allegory about being an outcast, feeling different. It's not an allegory about being a minority. It's only an allegory about your sexual preferences now, because there are so many degenerates out there. Unfortunately, those degenerates don't particularly support comic books to a large degree, unfortunately. And some of you might say, but Wes, the furry community is huge. That's a large percentage of the U.S. population. Is it? This is what Medium.com estimates the furry community to be in the U.S. 860,000 people. And I would imagine that's a high estimate. Do you know what percentage of the U.S. population 860,000 people is? Because it sounds like a big number. 0.25. 0.25%. You just can't make this stuff up. And of course, Tom Revort is not making anything better. But let's hear from that Screen Rant article. Furries rejoice as one of X-Men's most iconic heroes is a big fan. Written by a Screen Rant writer, Alex Schlesinger. The iconic X-Men hero Nightcrawler has been a lot of things: a pirate, a priest, a circus performer, and now an ally to the furry community. Kurt Wagner, the fuzzy blue mutant, reveals his affinity for furries in Uncanny X-Men #3 after one of the young outliers attempts to insult him by calling him a furry, only for Nightcrawler to declare his support for the community proudly. Nightcrawler is one of the X-Men's most famous and beloved visible mutants, maintaining his status as a sex symbol for years. despite his visual differences, making his support for the furry community completely unsurprising. Completely unsurprising to you, but as an actual fan of Nightcrawler and X-Men, pretty surprising, considering he is a devout Catholic. You know, he has been a priest. I thought that was kind of silly, but whatever. They made him a priest at one point. Doesn't really make sense for the character. You know what I mean? Doesn't make sense with his history, but he's blue and furry, and he's been a sex symbol for years, according to Alex Schlesinger. Sure he has. He's just... The sex symbol of Marvel Comics is the blue devil guy. That's supposed to be ironic because he looks like a devil on the outside, but he's got the heart of gold. And that's why he's such a cool character. That's why he's really compelling. And I think that's why a lot of people really resonate and kind of identify with Nightcrawler, you know, because it's not everything on the outside that really counts. It's what you do. It's how you portray yourself. It's what you believe in. And that's always what made Nightcrawler an amazing hero. And one of the reasons I think he's just absolutely spectacular. And one of the real key foundational characters in X-Men lore. And it says in there that furries rejoice. If you read the article from Screen Rant, there are no actual, like, citations or examples of furries rejoicing in there. Maybe Alex Schlesinger is a furry, but I don't think so. But maybe Alex Schlesinger is a furry that's rejoicing. But it's not actually in the article. It's just in the title and suggests that. Although I do believe that it probably did happen. You know, one of the furries out there was like, finally, we've got our furry hero. It's Nightcrawler. I always knew that he got down with the furry cause and all that kind of stuff. Kind of like, I remember when Brock Lesnar got the really enormous penis tattoo on his chest, and the entire penis tattoo community was like, finally, we got a fucking hero. I imagine it was something like that. Why did Brock Lesnar do that? It had the grip on it. It made it look like somebody was holding the penis. It was so strange, but this is also strange. Also from that Screen Rant article, Nightcrawler tells Ransom that furry parties, presumably at furry conventions, are magnificent, revealing that not only does he support the furry fandom, but he has actually spent time around the community. Just like Nightcrawler, the real-world furry fandom has been maligned and mocked for years now, with many denigrating furries without ever exploring who they truly are. Many people assume that being a furry is exclusively a sexual act, which is incorrect, with the reality being that the furry community is a group of like-minded individuals who enjoy anthropomorphic animal characters. Man, I fucking love a good mascot as much as the next guy. Despite my affinity for mascots, I don't myself dress up as a mascot or request that my wife dress up as a mascot so we can do the nasty, like in our costumes and stuff. Now, do I think every furry is inherently like a sexual perversion? Probably not. But I think it's a lot of it. If you go online and look up furry art, you'll see lots of foxes putting their tails out, looking for a hump. And you'll see lots of dogs and basically every kind of animal out there. It's just, it's so strange. And it really does go against everything that Nightcrawler has ever stood for. Really anything that X-Men has ever stood for. Not that I think with Nightcrawler or the X-Men would be anti-furry, but I don't think they're going to the furry conventions, despite some of them being very blue and very, very furry. Of course, this is all slanted from the perspective of Alex Schlesinger, just like my commentary is slanted from my bias itself. And Alex exclusively wants the X-Men to be seen as an LGBTQ allegory, and that's all it can ever be. And that's all it will ever be if you only hire people like Alex at Screen Rant and CBR and these other places. And you can tell that that's his mission. And the reason that he's written over 400 articles on the X-Men since House of X Powers of 10 is because he wants to wish that into existence, despite the fandom turning away from that and denying it and not supporting it every step of the way. There's a reason that they've had to reboot this so many times in the last few years. There's a reason that they've already announced 20 X-Men comic books for the franchise, even though we're only, I think, 2 months into the reboot. And it ain't because the comic books are selling like hotcakes. It ain't because shit like turning Nightcrawler into a furry is really resonating with people. It's not shit like Kitty Pryde finally coming out as canonically bisexual, even though she did that years ago, is really, really captivating that audience. It's turning them away in mass. But 0.25% of the fucking population can now say, you know what? I've got my own furry fucking Nightcrawler in the X-Men. Despite, if you go back and actually read who the character is, you probably will like nothing about him. because he is deeply religious. He's really not into perversions. He doesn't celebrate stuff like that. There are other bad things going on in this comic book from Gail Simone. One of them is this new character, Deathsuck. I think that's his name. But he's like this Asian kid that died when he was born. He had an umbilical cord wrapped around his neck, and he was revived, and apparently he can talk to dead people. But my, oh man, this character, I think, is meant to be strange. But they've taken strange to the next level. When I say they, I'm talking about Gail Simone. The dude that owns the farm where they're doing, it's kind of a danger room. It's really a danger yard or maybe a danger field. And he lets them know, because he had to work that day, I touched cow tits and they were squishy like a blood bag, which I think was supposed to be hilarious because he's so weird. Kind of like the moment in the 40-year-old version when he said boobs felt like a bag of sand. And if it wasn't funny enough the first time, they actually reiterate the joke. Everyone was laughing just as much the second time as they were the first time. Absolutely not. And then at the end, Kurt says, you know, because this kid did try to kill him, he says, it's all right, little one. I'm sure you have good hearts. And then Deathsuck says, mine has worms in it, because he's got worms in his heart. And that's the level of jokes in dialogue that Gail Simone is bringing to the party in Uncanny X-Men these days. It's as bad as we thought it could be. The first issue, kind of all right. The second issue, definitely in decline. The third issue, I think we definitely know this ain't it. This is not Uncanny X-Men. It absolutely fucking sucks. She has the worst voice in the history of comic books for both Gambit and Rogue. And Gambit and Rogue are both pretty substantial characters in this comic book, with Rogue probably having more dialogue than anybody. And it's virtually unreadable. And I can't take another sugar. I understand that's part of her dialect. I understand that's something that she likes to say. She says it a little bit too much now. And the Cajun accent does not work for the character. But that is like reading Shakespeare in comparison to reading the dialogue from Deathsuck. Definitely one of the worst characters introduced at Marvel Comics in the last few years. You know, throw fucking Riri Williams on the team. Call her a mutant, put her on the team, and get rid of Deathsuck. It would be a better story for it. That's how bad things have gotten. So there you go. Nightcrawler is a fucking furry now, because why not? If we haven't driven everyone away yet, it's time to really double down and triple down on our efforts and make sure that by the time Tom Brevoort and the From the Ashes new set of writers are done with it, there are only 14 X-Men fans left. Let's destroy the franchise all the way down to the foundation so it can never be built up again. That's what it feels like they're actually trying to do here. If you like the levity and the honesty that I'm bringing to the comic book industry that absolutely needs it now more than ever, and you would like to support me and my mission here at Think Critical YouTube, I do want to invite you to visit me on Think Critical Patreon. There's a link in the video description. You support me there. You get lots of bonus stuff in the form of podcasts, exclusive videos, all that kind of stuff. The comic book industry needs me and you now more than ever. Support me in the link below.